President Buhari receives briefings on Mali from Special Envoy, makes case for securing the West African nation.
APC inaugurates screening and appeal committees ahead of elections.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall revisit COVID-19 and sharing experiences.
The spread of COVID-19 has been linked to unhealthy living conditions in significant instances, and over the last few weeks, public health experts have stressed the need to reverse the trend by prioritizing the mitigation with robust initiatives.
That's right, Kieran. And just a few days ago, the Presidential Task Force noted a steady decline in COVID-19 case fatality rates going by records on the public domain.
Complying with the COVID-19 safety protocols perhaps may have been instrumental to the decline, but beyond this, experience sharing is considered another critical approach in flattening the curve of the virus.
Coronavirus is not a death sentence, are words that have been resonating among health officials and survivors around the country, but more especially on this platform.
And many who have survived the ordeal are sharing their experiences, and Good Morning Nigeria has been hosting a cross-section of Nigerians from states, chief executive officers to elite individuals.
Now, the experiences of the virus, though varied, indicate that there are common lessons. Now, the survivors are giving handouts, as it were, of courage and containment of fear and stigmatization. Little wonder some have earned their stripes as overcomers.
So today we continue our conversation as some survivors will be joining us to share their own perspectives and their experiences on the pandemic. And this is Good Morning Nigeria. And thank you for your time. I am Kirian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kirian to also welcome you to the program. We are broadcasting on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's a live transmission from our headquarters studios here in Abuja. In a moment, of course, we shall have the highlights of the morning news and also the complementary segments of the program. These include newspaper review and business. For now, let's go over to Abdul Malik Adio for the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Abdul Malik.
Good morning, Kingsley, and good morning, Kieran. Now, welcome to the news. I'm Abdul Malik Adio. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari is worried that apart from the unresolved political situation in the Republic of Mali, the country is also occupied largely by terrorists. It therefore makes a case for priority attention to be focused on securing the West African nation. This was while granting audience to the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who is a ECOWAS special envoy and the head of mediation mission to the troubled country. Now, the Federal Executive Council has approved the appointment of field forensic auditors to undertake a comprehensive forensic audit of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. This is in addition to the lead forensic auditors earlier appointed by the federal government in March this year. The Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, announced this while briefing newsmen after the weekly meeting of the council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari.
This has really kick-started the commencement of evaluation and of the abandoned projects of the NDDC in the last 19 years. Estimated at almost 12,000 projects. And at the end, we will be in a position to know the ones that could be completed, the ones that will be useful, the low-hanging fruits that could be plucked for the benefit of the people of the Niger Delta region.
And despite a sharp fall in the second quarter GDP figures, Nigerian's economy still outperformed earlier projection by the Nigerian National Bureau of Statistics. In a response to the second figures by the presidency, special advisor to the president and media and publicity Femi Adesina notes that the performance is commendable when placed at par with many big economies around the world. He urged that the government anticipation of the impending economic slowdown and the various initiatives introduced as early response to cushion the effect of the economy and social on the pandemic through the Economic Stability Program contributed immensely to dampening the severity of the pandemic on growth. On the fiscal side, a robust financing mechanism was designed to raise revenue to support humanitarian assistance in addition to special intervention funds for the health sector. Now, state governments have been advised not to deprive Nigerian residents in their respective state benefit accruable from the good intentions and investment of the federal government to ensure safe water and sanitation for all. As Minister Suleiman Adamu gives scorecard of the last 1 year, the federal-state partnership appears to be one bottleneck confronting the Federal Ministry of Water Resources in a bid to implement programs and policies aimed at turning around the water, sanitation and hygiene sector.
A total of 57,261 direct jobs and 111,588 indirect jobs have been created through the various dam, irrigation and water supply projects completed within the reported period.
Now, Nigeria has recorded 221 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. The latest statistics from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control shows that Nigerians' COVID-19 caseload is now 53,221, out of which 40,281 recovered cases have been discharged, leaving 11,730 active cases. A breakdown of the 221 new cases across 20 states shows that Plateau State has 60 cases, followed by the Federal Capital Territory with 33 and Kaduna with 26 cases. Rivers recorded 18 new cases, Lagos with 17, while Enugu, Kwara and Ondo have 9 cases each. Now, others are Nasarawa with 6, Gombe and Anambra with 5 cases each, while Delta and Abia have 4 new cases. Imo recorded 3 cases, while Edo, Ogun, Oyo and Osun have 2 new cases each, with Bauchi and Kanu with only 1 case each. Now, on the state case chart, Lagos still leads with 18,035 cases, followed by the Federal Capital Territory with 5,079 cases, while Oyo is third with 1,060 cases. Unfortunately, the case chart that shows that 1,010 lives sadly was lost to the pandemic in the country. Now, the All Progressives Congress, APC, is tightening loose hands to ensure victory at the concurrent legislative by-elections in 8 states across the country. To this end, the Caretaker and Extraordinary National Convention Planning Committee of the party has inaugurated the Screening and Appeal Committee ahead of the elections.
The job of selecting credible candidates for those elections begins with you. The National Chairman, His Excellency Honorable Mai Balabuni, and the entire leadership of the party are committed to free and transparent process.
Dispensing justice, equity within the party. So this is what they are expecting each and every one of us in the committee.
Cross River section is a place that we really have to focus on to be able to win.
And that's the morning news. Good Morning Nigeria continues after this break.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now it's time for business news. Let's join our correspondent.
Global production levels for most commonly consumed staples, wheat, rice, maize, yam, and other staples are near all-time highs, occasioned by the drop in global demand. considering the status of global food supplies. Export restrictions are needless and could affect food security in importing countries. In view of the potential rise in food security during the COVID-19 pandemic, key players are involved in ways to sustain agribusiness, markets and food sufficiency, and ultimately food security to avert hunger.
We are calling for a sustainable intervention that could last many years. You see, if we make our food reserve as it should be, we should be able to feed our nation for 2-3 years, even when there is war or there is poor harvest.
One challenge is flood by building canal drainages to make sure it push out the flood so that it will not come and overcome the crops. And we believe this year farming season will not experience it by the grace of God.
In the capital market, activities on the floor of the exchange maintained a positive posture, with investors gaining 20.02 billion naira as all-share index appreciated further by 0.15% to close at 25,330.10 basis points compared to its increase by plus 0.25% previously. Its year-to-date returns currently stands at minus 5.63%. Meanwhile, volume contracted by 28.09% against the previous uptick of plus 0.06%.
And the program is Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us here now is newspaper review.
All right, Kira and I will go over the headlines and then have some conversation on one or two of the topics before we take the editorials. Let's take a look at the window page of the Nation newspaper. Above the nameplate says NBA 2020 AGC. That is Nigerian Bar Association Annual General Conference. Details are on page 5. But you have 4 riders to that headline. 24,000 lawyers participating. Buhari on time limit for cases. Buhari on time limit for cases. Ekweremadu knocks e-orders, that's to say executive orders. And Tony Blair joins conference. Details on page 5 as I indicated. AFDB, that's African Development Bank, capital base hits $115 billion, says additional, and mandate for renewal. NBC DG, that's acting DG, broadcasting code not imposed. That's on page 2. And then below that, you have headlines from the Edo and Ondo governorship elections coming up next month in October. Yamo and Shaibu trade blame over gunshot at rally. AIG assures residents of peaceful election. Jagade begins talks with leaders and Makinde leads campaign. Okay, Kekebeke, Olanusi and others to deliver for Akeredolu. We have details on page 27. Southern Kaduna crisis. JNI blames elders and rights groups. We are the bereaved. We can't keep quiet, says Sokapo. That's the Southern Kaduna People's Union. And then below the photograph on the front page there, it says FEC, that's Federal Executive Council, okays forensic auditing for 12,000 NDDC projects. That story continues on page 4. Amotekun won't be under IG, say Akeredolu and Makinde, those governors of Ondo and Oyo states. 183 House members yet to sponsor bill. 183 House members yet to sponsor bill. COVID-19 stories and table you find on page 3 of the paper. Kirian.
All right, to the Nigerian Pilot. Nigerian Pilot newspaper. Buhari proposes 1-year limit for criminal cases. It's on page 9. DSS and IPOB clash. Army places troops on high alert. It's on page 12. Security alert. Are Onaka Council raises alarm, says terrorists in southwest, says they have entered Niger State and Okeogun. in your state reveals that 500 power bikes, bandits, arms cited. Wants Southwest residents to get gun licenses for protection. Now, below the photo story, Ondo Governor counters DIG, says governors won't fund community policing. That's on page 5. Post-COVID-19, Zenith Bank, GMD, calls for expansion of non-oil exports and revenue. EFCC and NAF to enhance collaboration against corruption. It's on page 8. Nigeria's negative economic growth not as bad as projected. That's according to the presidency. Also on page 8. The Borno government to demolish 1,300 houses in Maiduguri over flooding. So page 6. Federal government approves field forensic auditors for NDDC. Well, we remitted $18 billion since 2004. NLNG tells the Senate. That's on page 5. Yeah.
All right, Kieran, let's take a look. There's stories coming out of the Nigerian Bar Association Annual General Conference. It's taking place, of course, in Lagos, but virtually most of the other lawyers are joining from the comfort of their offices or of their homes. President Muhammadu Buhari indicated yesterday that he would see a situation where criminal cases are speeded up in the through the court process, right up from arraignment up to the final arbiter, which is the Supreme Court. They said, look, we could do this within a time bound, anything from 12 to 15 months or thereabout. I think it's a significant proposition, Kieran, if you ask me, because we have seen instances where cases drag on for a very long time, and despite the introduction of the Administration for Criminal Justice Act, we have seen that this hasn't quite helped. Anti-corruption cases drag on for 10 years or more. And what happens is that at the end of the day, you lose vital witnesses. The judges who are handling the case, sometimes the matters have to start afresh, and you lose vital evidence. And at the end, you hardly ever get the justice that you require, or people even lose interest in what the matter is all about.
I'm happy that this is coming from you, as a lawyer, because some of us have made comments on the way and manner cases are handled in Nigeria, delayed tactics, using some technicalities, and to elongate cases that also have been, dispersed in 6 months, lasting years and years and years, and the people even lose interest, as you pointed out, on such cases. But if we can handle such criminal cases within a space of 1 year or 15 months, of course, it will be a healthy development for the legal profession, so that even lawyers and judges will have space, to handle the many other cases, So by the time a case lasts for 15 years, one wonders, people will even lose interest in the case, and in some cases, the persons being prosecuted will even be set free. So because, people also say that justice delayed is justice denied.
Well, Kira, I get your point. I mean, the grounds for setting the person free would be that the prosecution hasn't been able to prove his case beyond all reasonable doubt. That's the key factor there. Well, there are a number of issues that are involved in saying this. You can say, all right, fine, let's see how we can do all of this within 12 months or 15 months or 18 months reasonably. We had an example. This was under the military. In 1986, there was a requirement in the Armed Robbery Tribunal's decree at the time that trials of arrested armed robbers should be concluded within 1 week. And indeed, I covered one of such trials in 1986. It involved, everybody remembers him in 1986 after he was arrested in December of 1986. And it was within 1 week for his first set of trial. And that was by Justice Omo Agege at the armed robbery tribunals taking place in Benin at the time. But the second set of trials lasted a little over a week, but there was still justice for the cause. And within 3 or 4 months, the persons who were found guilty were, of course, taken to the stakes, and that was the end of the matter. Yes. So, but as I said, it's quite a number of issues there that the president has raised, and how to deal with this one is very important. In some other jurisdictions, say in the U.S., for instance, where you have the jury system, it tends also to accelerate the pace of of the trial. The jury system helps, but here we don't have a jury system.
Would you prescribe a jury system for Nigeria? Because you and I, on many occasions, have handled topics on legal profession on this platform, and we realize that there are, I like to use the word lagunas, in the entire system that requires to be reformed. And we've been talking about law reform, legal reform for over the years. So I wouldn't know the direction of these reforms. I've not really had the impact of such reforms, but it's been on the table for a very long time. Law reform, legal reform, and what have you. Yet we're still, even applying some more obnoxious laws, laws made, by colonial masters, are still very effective today. And I wonder the kind of reform we've been talking about over the years. This thing has not been effected, and it's affecting the legal profession. You have a judge that will have more than 200 cases unattended to, and when he retires, and the case will be started all over again, and so on and so forth. So I wonder, and even some judges could be promoted from High Court to Appeal Court, for instance, and whatever case he may have handled at the High Court level, when he's if he didn't pass judgment before he's promoted, that case will start again all over again. So I don't understand.
That's what has happened in the so-called Ojo.
Exactly. So I don't understand
the other way to get around this, Kirian, again, as to say, apart from say you have a jury system, perhaps we may then choose to return to, shall we say, regional appeal or Supreme Courts, so that certain kinds of cases terminate at those regional Supreme Courts, as it were, rather than every case now, if every person has a right of appeal, the case will terminate at the Supreme Court. But if you have regional Supreme Courts that will say, go along with the 6 regions and there are criminal cases that arise from the state level, rather than clogging the National Supreme Court, those cases could then be disposed of at the regional Supreme Courts. The other stories.
There's this story. This federal government approves field forensic auditors for NDDC. You recall that some weeks ago, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, had it out at the National Assembly, when a committee actually investigated the activities at the NDDC. Right, and the issue of these forensic auditors, came up, right, and of course, from what played out, during that conversation between him and the committee members, it does appear really that government is also taking it seriously, because you need to know NDDC has been there over the years, and they made little or no impact, compared to the kind of amount of money, humongous amount of money that has been spent, on that commission. Use the expression where someone can get a contract of 100 million and use 10 million to do the contract. According to the man who was in the saddle, who had the documentation, he showed it to Nigerians. Look, I've been here, right? And these are documented evidence that I'm talking about. So I think it's a good move by the federal government to approve, these field forensic auditors for NDDC.
Kirian, that's a fine point, but in terms of sequencing, the federal government earlier indicated that there was going to be a forensic audit of the NDDC well before the House of Representatives got into their own investigation. I recall we had on Good Morning Nigeria, the Minister of State for Niger Delta Affairs, and indicated that they were going to have a number of auditors to be appointed. But of course, when the House then got into what their own activities were with regard to investigating the goings on at NDDC, the executive branch had then not appointed the auditors. What the House was doing is not the equivalent of a forensic audit, as it were, just general, but of course some good revelations have also emerged from all of that. The forensic audit will get into the details of what transpired, the monies that went to whom and for what, whether justified, that if there are queries to be raised, you raise those queries, and if there are reforms to be made, you also indicate that. But it is scandalous, typical of the way we sometimes run our agencies, and which of course also explains why the NDDC has been a low or poor performing intervention agency. 12,000 projects. It's mind-boggling.
Most of these projects, most of them were either not executed or halfway executed.
That's right.
In other words, abandoned along the line. Yet the entire money meant for such contracts have been fully paid. So that is the implication. I mean, that's the situation. And when the minister was saying, look, We know the persons who are involved in this contract, you know, right? Even members of National Assembly are involved in this contract. And when the doubts came, the next day, you wrote up names. We wrote up names with evidence and, of course, documentations and all of that. So, I mean, it's a sorry situation for that very commission. I hope that things will be done to turn things around for that commission to really see how Niger Delta area can be properly developed.
Okay, Kirian, I think virtually those are the headlines. We already discussed this on Monday or Tuesday, I think. Amotekun wouldn't be under IG. This is part of the conflict in terms of the structure and reporting lines of Amotekun, which is the security network being set up in states of the southwest. We, of course, indicated that they will have to sort it out. That's to say, governors of the southwest and the executive branch, more particularly the Inspector General of Police. Now, let's take a look at the editorial this morning. It's coming from Daily Trust. It says, Ghana, abide by ECOWAS protocol. Details of the editorial are on page 18 of the Daily Trust. It says, the federal government last week threatened to sue the Ghanaian government at the Community Court of Justice of ECOWAS if the country was found to have breached the sub-region's protocol of free movement of people from member states. Now, the editorial also indicates that the Ghanaian Ministry of Trade had rejected claims of unfair treatment of Nigerian traders during the enforcement of the Ghana Investment Promotion Council regulations, saying that traders must pay the required taxes and other fees imposed on them, which is $1 million minimum foreign equity. And the registration fee, of course, is 31,500 cedis. The editorial adds, it is not unlikely that the action of the Ghanaian authorities is a reaction to Nigeria's closure of our land borders with neighboring countries, including Benin and Niger, since August 20th, 2019. Indeed, the measure which was taken to effectively check the smuggling of rice and other commodities into Nigeria, as well as criminal activities, may have prompted Ghana's GIPC policies.
I'm not sure it is connected, you know, to the closure of border, because Ghana, you know, that behavior against Nigeria has been there since 2007, and we didn't close our borders in 2007. So I wonder why the editorial is linking that up. You know, it is just an attitude against Nigeria. We have discussed it a number of times, and again and again, many African countries have done this in the past. Kingsley, I mean, if you have any person living outside Nigeria, perhaps living in any African country, he will tell you molestation, assault, insult of all sorts. You know, I mean, you cannot believe it. You walk on the street and someone will walk on my camera and give you a slap just because you're a Nigerian. It happens. So it's not a question of closure of border. And again, the issue of going to court, ECOWAS court, you know, I'm not sure that, well, you know, that's a step to take anyway. But the important thing is this. For me, tit for tat. I mean, if you are aggressive to my country, I will do the same. You know, because these things, if you allow these things to continue, you know, you will not be you will not be proud being a Nigerian, right? When you travel out of the country, people will be looking down on you. People will be talking down on you. I want to see a situation where, look, if you do anything at the diplomatic level, I will react in that same direction, so that you know that I'm very stressed about it. So is there a question of it's okay? You know, we had the president of Nigerian Players Association, you know, who spoke here so extensively on what could be done, you know, to stop such things. So I don't know. It depends on our policy. Like you also recall that the theme of Nigerian foreign policy, you know, is centered on Africa. You know. So I don't know whether the thing is working against us. You know, because our own focus on foreign policy is on Africa, and Nigeria has done a lot for African nations. A lot of African nations. I wonder why that's so aggressive.
I don't know, Kirian. I think the key thing here, in addition to various options that the Nigerian government may be considering, the time has come for a more strategic review of the whole idea of ECOWAS itself and what Nigeria could do with regard to ECOWAS. When you find irritations like this, from time to time, what other diplomatic steps can you take? Nigeria is the biggest funder of ECOWAS in the first instance, and there are indications that in most cases, even Nigerian employees in the ECOWAS Secretariat do not fare very well relative to nationals of other ECOWAS member countries. So what is the big stick that Nigeria has that Nigeria can wield at any point in time? And what happens? If indeed you are a big brother, yes, you are a big brother. If you sneeze, others should cut code in the first instance.
Exactly, and that sneeze is what we need to do at this point, so that they can catch cold.
And we don't have, the government doesn't have corona, so the government can sneeze and they will catch cold. All right. All right, so that does it for us in our newspaper review segment. We'll take a short break.
Our conversation this morning is the fifth part on COVID-19 and sharing experiences. And to set the tone for the conversation are excerpts from last week's edition as put together by Victor Azu.
I had this tickle in the throat, and I thought it was on a Friday, a working day, and I thought I had maybe a sore throat or something coming, or a cold. So I got some throat lozenges, which I started to take. But that evening, I had some symptoms. When I got home in the evening, I felt the shiver, inside your bone that you get like when you have malaria or something. So I took a hot shower, and then I had this thing on the heart. It seemed like I could shake it off, but it didn't quite, come off. And then also I had a sort of slight ache on the legs, So I asked for a test because those were all symptoms that I know are consistent with possible COVID. And that night, I went to bed fairly early, and when I woke up in the morning, I looked at my phone, my message, and the person who had, I saw that one of the people who had tested me had said, please call, because I'd taken 3 tests before, and each time, then the following day, I get a text message to say negative. So on this occasion, I knew I was positive, because that was a different way of communicating the information to me.
I called the NCDC number. Somebody picked up, referred me to another number. A lady picked up and said she was going to get back to me. She never did till tomorrow.
So what was going through your mind as you were waiting for them to pick up the call and get back to you?
A whole lot. You really cannot figure out what exactly was, I was in a dilemma because I wasn't sure what it was. What I was suspecting, we have treated and not getting better. So I was just at a crossroad, waiting for an answer. But while I tried to reach out to NCDC to come and, either book me in for a test or come and collect my sample, and all that will prove abortive. My personal doctor, had to call some of his friends who were at the front line of the COVID-19 fight. And I think those personnel came from the FCT Public Health Department. They collected my test, my sample. They told me that my result will come out 72 hours from when they collected my sample. But I tell you, for 8 days, I did not hear from NCDC or the FCT Public Health. And I self-isolated, did some research, and self-medicated.
I am not trying to defend anybody here. NCDC, the toll-free line, initially they shared a line, about 4 lines or 5 lines, that is made available to the whole nation. So if you are calling, most of the time the lines are engaged. Not that they are not responding, right? Because at the end of the day, we now looked at it. We advised that if those lines are just for the whole Nigeria, then it will not work. So let it be state-specific, right, so that there will be better response. There has been improvement on the response from NCDC side. For us in public health, we have our toll-free lines that we shared.
As of today, we built so much in terms of redundancy in the state. And that's why the management of it has been quite great in the state of Lagos. And courtesy again, the fantastic team put together by Mr. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, as headed by the Commissioner of Health, Professor Aki Abayomi, who on a daily basis meet, and they offer advice, they review, and of course, they postulate, they look at projections, they look at several things. I've been privy to be part of their meetings, and I know what they do. It's been very, very impressive. That's on the side of the state, and that's why the state has been able to kind of reduce what would have been a very alarming or very overwhelming a number.
I tested 5 times positive before having the 2 negatives. So during that period, it was hell, because initially I was using herbs, and I combine herbs, that's unorthodox, with orthodox medicine and what have you. So I will have to steam different types of herbs in the morning and combine it with all the drugs they gave me the medical team gave to me. So when it got to that certain stage, they said, okay, I should have to drop all the herbs. Apart from steaming the herbs, I also took about 10 types of herbs. So that thing really could not really, it really affected my immunity. So they said I should drop it. And by the time I drop it, so I started taking the orthodox drugs, combine it with bitter cola and orogbo, and atari. So, and when they came for the 6th one, in fact, I was very happy. And the last one came 48, 72 hours later. And I also tested negative.
All right, excerpts there from our last conversation with some Nigerians who have had coronavirus and have also triumphed over it. You could see the other guests, including the Minister of Foreign Affairs, were all chuckling as the Honorable Commissioner for Information of your state was narrating what he tried to do to battle the coronavirus to a standstill and defeat it, as it were. Congratulations to all of them. This morning, again, we have 2 guests, of course, who will be sharing their experiences with us. And then Professor Abdulsalami Nasidi will be providing perspectives on coronavirus and matters arising from how we have handled it, and as well as issues elsewhere around the world. Professor Abdulsalam Nasidi is a regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria, a former Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Provost, College of Health Sciences, University of Africa, Bayelsa State. Professor Nasidi, thank you for being with us this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. Now, also here with us this morning, I would like to welcome Mr. Godwin Omeri Okoro. Is a member of the COVID-19 Response Team, Federal Capital Territory Public Health Department. Mr. Okoro, pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, sir.
Okay, I also like to welcome Airboy Friday Andrew, the Medical Laboratory Scientist, FCT, Public Health Department. It's good to have you join us this morning.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Am I right to say that both of you are survivors of coronavirus?
Yes.
You're survivors?
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. Great.
Well,
great.
I'm not trying to patronize you, but presumably, too, you are young men, because the impression seems to have been created in some quarters that coronavirus doesn't affect young people. I'm not asking you to disclose your age, but tell us what happened to you.
The idea of coronavirus not affecting the younger ones is obviously not true, because as a COVID this thing, a responder in FCT, so it was, we've been working since March, since the emergence of the dreadful virus. So it was on that fateful day, we've been going into treatment centers, trying to pick up samples from suspected cases and already people in treatment. So it was on that fateful day, that was on the 28th of May. So that very night, we came back from our normal regular duty, going to pick up samples. We were in our place where they lodged us. So my colleague, we used to have a get-together before maybe going to sleep to discuss how the day's activities were and all that. So it was that very evening, a colleague brought out wine for us to just share up so we could go back to our this thing. So when I took the wine, I didn't get any taste from the wine. So I told him, brother, why did you bring out wine that have expired and all that? He said, no. When he had the sip and he believed everything was okay, I said, no, I can't get any taste from this wine. That means the wine has spoiled or something. He said, no. Maybe, he jokingly, now said, maybe, are you sure it's not coronavirus? We now laughed over it. Then, on secondly, I think they brought food for me that very night to egusi soup and pounded yam. So, and I took the food and I didn't get any taste from, egusi soup is my favorite food, and I didn't get any taste from the food.
Was there bushmeat in the soup?
So I didn't get any taste from the food. I was like, oh, I think there's problem somewhere. Then on that second question, I didn't disclose it to my friends. I was like, okay, let me see what happens the following morning. The next day, when I woke up and we are heading to some other place to pick up their sample again as well. Then I can remember waking up after taking my bed and applied my perfume. I couldn't perceive my perfume again. And my perfume is a very strong perfume. So whenever I apply it, I should perceive it. So I didn't perceive not even anything at all from it. So I said, okay. That was when I now had to turn to my friend. I said, brother, I think I have COVID. He said, no, I can't be. I shouldn't be. I can't be saying all sort of that I should be positive. I said, no, brother, I've never felt like this before, that I can't perceive anything. I can't test anything. I took Fanta, a whole lot of Fanta. I didn't notice I was taking Fanta as a drink. So then that very day, I still went out with them to go and work. But on that occasion, I insisted because since I'm a responder, I should do my test alongside with others that very day. So that very day, they took my sample. I was still feeling unwell. I was feeling cold all throughout. Then I was feeling weak as well. So the following day, we went out for work again, and I came back. I had a serious diarrhea. I was purging seriously. Small thing, I could have messed up my clothing and all that. So that was when I knew that I'm in a very serious mess and all that. So after then, I told my people, because we have a Summers device where we could easily check our results and all that. I told my colleagues that I said I can't do this anymore. I think there's something seriously wrong with me. So I really need a medical attention. They say, don't be negative, don't be positive, don't be negative about all that. I say, this is the way I'm feeling. I really need to do something about it. So good enough, we have what we call Summers device. They have already uploaded my results online. So as a responder, I have access to the device as well. So when I said, okay, let me just try my possible best to see if I could see my result up there. So when I entered my page, that was when I saw COVID result positive. Immediately it dawned on me like, wow, seriously, so this could get to me and all that. So the first thing I did was to call my office, my madam in the laboratory. I was like, madam, look at what I was. Okay, and I said, okay, we have the algorithm of how things should flow. We have our incidents manager that is meant to call me to tell me about my result and all that. So not quite long. So our incident manager from FCT Public now called me, said, Okoro Godwin. I said, sir, where are you? I said, I'm somewhere around public health unit. He said, he was trying to stammer on phone, trying to pass the information to me, not knowing that
you already know.
Somehow, I have an idea of how I've been feeling and all that.
Let me ask you this. You're a responder who is supposed to have access to personal protective equipment, while on the line of duty. I'm just wondering, do you have an idea, where you got exposed, where you may have caught the virus from? Because you work with your colleagues, you also attend to patients, who are already, at the isolation center. You also collect samples, from people. So where do you think something went wrong,
To be honest with you, one can never be too careful about this virus because, number one, it's a new virus. You don't know how it acts and how it works so far. So what actually happened to me, I can't trace it to anywhere. But I know it was in line of duty that I got it from, because then those periods we are going to the communities, you have to cancel we are going to the communities, different communities in FCT, within FCT to go and pick up their samples. So we also enter treatment centers to go and pick up those for follow-up.
You have your face mask and
yes,
gloves.
We have face masks, we have our everything, protective wears and all that. So that's what I say. One can never be too careful, and tracing it back, honestly, I can't really pinpoint the actual place I got it from.
Okay, Godwin, thanks. Let's also bring in Friday Egbe, who's a medical laboratory scientist in the Public Health Department of the Federal Capital Territory. Tell us your story.
Thank you so much. It's a surprising thing to talk about most of the time, and you can't pinpoint, just like my colleague said, you can't pinpoint where you actually get the virus from. I'm a member of the team also. I'm equally a staff of the department, Public Health Department, where other people have to join us to work. And I've been active in the field also. Sometimes I smile when I want to recall what actually happened because I can't pinpoint exactly where you get it. There's something about this virus that is unique. Just like they say novel, it's unique. You will not say, I got it from here. Because right from March, when we started, we're among the first few that started going around Abuja, different houses, different homes, to pick samples. And just on a Tuesday, we finished from the field, I discovered that my nostrils were blocked. That was my experience. After my colleague's own, I now began to say, wow, now that my nostrils are blocked, what is happening? Because I've never had such an experience before. If I have blocked nostrils, it always used to be one of it, and after a few minutes or a few days, it will go. But this one, it refused to go. So went to the field as usual, and then talked to my colleague. I said, this is the way I'm feeling. Can you take my sample alongside our client? When we finish one client in one of the households in Asokoro, you have to sit down and they take my sample also. And we're waiting for the result. After like 2 days, I was disturbed. I keep calling to find out what is happening. I need to get my result. I'm not fine. Then the third day, after that experience of blocked nostrils, I discovered that I can no longer more smell. Someone came to, a vendor came to our site to say, I have perfume, very strong perfume from Italian perfumes. So I said, okay, can you let me see how it smells? Put it on my hands, put it on my nose. Well, asked me, how is it? I say it's fine, but inside me I know that I can't feel it. I can't feel anything. I can't feel anything. So I can't smell it. I say it's fine, it's fine. So are you not buying? I said I will buy it when I come back. So when I went in, I discovered that there's something wrong. There's something wrong. But that's one thing that is unique about the COVID virus. You will lose smell, you lost taste. Just like he said, I lost taste equally. Those are the other one. But I was strong. I was not weak. I was actually strong. I was fine. Then when the result came, through my state epidemiology, Dr. John, we now called and said, Friday, the result you've been waiting for is out. I said, Madam, is it positive? She paused for a little bit, said, yes, it's positive. I said, I have been expecting that. Because from all what I have perceived, or all what I have that is wrong, that is experienced within me, the result may definitely come out positive.
Now, you said you wouldn't be able to pinpoint
Yes.
where you got it from.
Yes.
You are a field worker, and you've been getting samples from different persons. And I'm sure that along the line, there may be some persons you got samples from that tested positive. Do you think that you may have gotten this in the line of duty, you know, from, do I call it a specimen or something, that you get from people who have been testing out, you know, across FCT? Is it possible?
I will not rule that out, because one thing I've equally discovered is that the numbers of exposures equally count. Because if you are collecting samples from one person, the exposure rate is minimal. But when you're now collecting from a number of 30, 50, 100 in a day, and you're moving from one, and daily, monthly, you will actually get it. Because I started by March, and I tested positive June 11th. So from March to June, discovered that the number of time is much. And that's why I said I cannot rule that out. But in terms of compromising on our PPEs, that's why I said I cannot pinpoint, because we are always fully gadgeted. We have all the apparel with us, so we have all our nose, everything covered. But if I can tell one thing about the virus is new, so you don't know when you will get it as well.
Actually, today is 6 months since coronavirus was officially confirmed in Nigeria, February 27th. But I still want to stay with you, gentlemen, before we bring in Professor Nasidi. Was this your first public health outreach in terms of going to collect samples and having to therefore deal with a situation of a novel virus that nobody knew much about? What was your thinking? Was it business as usual, or you thought you were going to a war front?
For me, personally, I was thinking I was going to a war front, because I'm the kind of person that I have passion for my profession, medical laboratory science. So I knew what I was to gain if I help my country curb up this virus and all that. So it was important to me to help the country, to help them cover. And it was my first time, because I was still in service. I was still a corps member. I was serving in my Tama District Hospital when they gave me a notice 3 months before my personal parade that, Godwin, we are inviting you for a training. So it was my first experience. It was a very new thing to me. But due to the passion and for my profession, so I just have to roll in, and good enough we are here today.
Well, Ade, still with you. In the course of your training, that's before you graduated, did you have to apprehend the behavior of certain kinds of viruses and what you could meet if you were on the field once you got a job?
Oh, it's somehow because trying to apprehend the way some viruses move and all that. For this particular case, it's a very new case, and for a long time, I'm not sure we've had something like Ebola was quite a different virus that you must have a body contact before you have it, or something, fluid contact from one person to another. But this one, like, we sitting alone, not maintaining the social distance and all that, it's already enough for somebody by your side to have it. So it was a different kind of virus. It was quite new to me. And so every other person.
Yeah, and everybody can also come in here, on this issue of the biological behavior of the virus. I wouldn't know how long you've worked as a lab scientist, but from the question Kingsley posed to your colleague here, do you, by any chance, thought about this virus in terms of its behavior and the pervasiveness of the virus in terms of the way people just call the virus by not keeping a distance from someone who perhaps may have the virus in him?
Yeah, no. I would say it is a lot like we said, it's a unique virus, and by learning or by education, where we're taught in classrooms, is quite a different thing from what we are seeing today. Viruses are one unique thing I have seen. By practice, I've been on the bench or in terms of working from the hospital for like 12 years now. So I've never seen this before. No wonder they say it's novel. So behaviorally, it's a new thing we are learning from. So many things will equally come up. There are many things I believe we've not seen about this virus, so we should be prepared more to face them in time. It's unique. I will put it that way. It's unique. I've never seen this.
But we also learned that there are some individuals who may get this virus. They will be asymptomatic in the first place.
Sure.
And who may not need to go to hospital, who may just use off-the-counter drugs, and it will go. We had that from one of the doctors, doctors at the Gwagwalada Isolation Center, the young lady, but that's why she got a little bit more confused about the virus, because she said, look, and some other person will get it, and within days, the person is down, completely down, and if not properly managed, the person loses his or her life. Okay. So what can you make of that as a lab scientist? I mean, what can you make of that kind of, differentiation in terms of individuals?
Yes, just by genetic makeup, human beings are different. Human beings, God created them in different ways. Human immune systems differs based on your age also. Your makeup's different. And another thing I discovered about it is that the day you get it different from another person. You may get the virus today, and you've been battling with it, your immune system is handling it. When you now start seeing 1 or 2 symptoms, it's more than the incubation period, and your body have already handles it. And at that time, even if you now say, oh, go and take drugs, you're just buying 1 or 2 drugs, few days, you are off. But another person that have a weaker immune system, it will manifest immediately. And if it's not handled properly, it may result to a different thing.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to have to pause here. There are still a lot of issues to raise with you in terms of your treatment experience and all that. But now let's bring in Professor Abdulsalam Nasidi one more time. Professor Nasidi, what do we know now about the behavior of the coronavirus in terms of the latest medical research and therefore attempts to get on top of it?
Well, thank you once again, Kingsley and my dear brother. Before we talk about the virus, let me seize this opportunity to congratulate Nigerian healthcare workers. I think in many countries where the virus really, affected seriously, like Italy, Spain, we saw how the population of those countries come out to cheer the healthcare workers for risking their lives, for being at the front line and etc. These two young people will have gone. They are young. One great news I got from them is they never got scared. They were afraid. They know they have gotten a dangerous virus, and some of them will have, absconded or say, "Oh, I'm not going to this anymore." I'm sure when they were healed, they went back to work again. And so this is the story of Nigerian healthcare workers. Many of them were not fully kitted, unfortunately, especially in some states. But they stayed behind and worked and really saved lives. And I'm sure Nigerian population should really, acknowledge the great patriotism of Nigerian healthcare workers. So I congratulate you people, and we thank God that you are here with us alive.
Thank you.
And also all the other young ones that, and all the healthcare workers that have been exposed, and some we lost them. I mean, they are so rest in perfect peace.
Amen.
Now, on the virus, as they both rightly said, had it been we knew much about this virus, we wouldn't have been here, discussing it like this, and also the world wouldn't have been scared. I used to tell people that if the strongest country in the world so far, the most powerful country, is scared of this virus, with all their wherewithal, with medical gadgets, technology, what should you be doing? You should be shivering, because we'll never know. The virus can go either way, and that's what he said, that we're not sure whether the virus will leave us alone or not. Before I talk about the coronavirus, 2, which is COVID-19, there are other coronaviruses that had come and caused epidemics, pandemics, and near pandemics. The first one is the SARS-CoV-1, that one that caused acute respiratory distress syndrome, that SARS, that affected virtually most part of the world, except Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. It started again in Asia, came into Europe, went to Canada, went this in. So Africa was spared. We don't know why. Then God saved us from that pandemic. We didn't have it a lot, and so on and so forth. Then MERS-CoV, one also virus came. It's also a coronavirus. That one was transmitted from animals, from camels, from sheep, etc., and affected many parts of the world, particularly the Middle East. And again, Africa, sub-Sahara was spared. Especially, we were afraid that time. Many Nigerians and many African Muslims were going for pilgrimage and etc. So we thought we shall soon start having the outbreak of MERS-CoV-1, but it never happened. We got some few cases, and that's it. So now we are dealing with the virus that, the topmost virologists in the world call it novel virus. It's a novel virus because it has characteristics that these other ones don't have. And what they are saying now, and the major point we should have raised was, and you keep asking them, how did you acquire it? Before we had additional knowledge about the virus, the initial impression was that, the virus is spread through droplets. What is a droplet? That, I'm talking now, drops of, salivas and all this are all flying. But if it's a droplet, it's heavy, it falls less than a meter. Then all of a sudden, some scientists, even both in Africa and everywhere, now found out that the virus is aerosolized. So it can fly in the air further than we're thinking. And this is where, you know, the difference is made. Now, we are doing social distancing, just 1 meter, 1.5 meters. Now, they say even 2-3 meters, you have to be extremely careful. I'm here now when they are talking, to be frank, because of the way they are describing the symptoms, I was afraid. I said, maybe I will get it too. So he said his nostrils was blocked. So I started feeling that my left nostril is also blocked. I'm already, so this is...
Hey, you've been the vice chairman of the FCT.
Absolutely. So, I know the work they did, because the young guys, the ones that I saw in Kano, in Bayelsa, and in you know, FCT here, Nigerian healthcare workers did very well. So the virus is strange. Up till now, we don't know the property. In fact, when we come to talk about the virus and the immunity, that's why you will hear what I will say about it. It's not like the other viruses. It's as if it has the property of most of the wicked viruses we have known. It has a bit of, you know, wickedness of HIV, of you know, Ebola virus, of SARS. So, and then it has a terrible coat that we has
spikes.
With these spikes. So those spikes is like rockets, weapons used to quickly, you know, get into your system. So it increases the surfaces of the virus to penetrate your body. Those that don't have spikes, they penetrate only through one surface. But this one, with those spikes are there, you know, to actually attach to any part of your body and then create what do you call the disease. But one thing you started with is, you know, you said young people don't acquire the virus easily like the decent and so on and so forth. No, everybody can acquire the virus, including now they are finding even younger children. But the difference is that younger people don't get the severe form of the virus, of the disease. So they don't go into severity. Like at my age now, if I catch the virus like they caught, I might not be able to fend off the virus quickly, you know, like them. So the chance that they will get severe format is less than if I can have it, you know, or anybody older than me. So then the last point of the virus is that my brother here was saying that, you know, what happens that you have the desire to do feel, and what can the virus do with it? Because it's like snake bites someone, and if you know it's a poisonous snake and there is no antivenom, you will be feeling. Snake have bitten me 3 times, so I know the type of feeling. You will just be feeling that death is coming very soon. I will die, except you have that antivenom. So the same thing with this virus. What people are seeing now is that the virus can go and be in a state of latency. That means lying low in your body, and you might not have symptoms, but all of a sudden, it can spike, you know, some severe activities. And people can die within 24, 48 hours. So this is another strange behavior of the virus that, especially if it affects an elder person that has these other comorbidities, like diabetes, hypertension, cancer, HIV. So these are the other things that, you know, is making people to be afraid that the virus is not predictable. It's a terrible one. It's very, very unpredictable.
Now, it is a virus that attacks the upper respiratory system in a human being. And you find that we've had other viruses in the past who are still in the corona family. But this one perhaps have a strain that appears to be strange, you know, to the entire medical, you know, family globally. Right. And talking about treatment, we've had some treatment protocol that has been in place. Initially, there are some medications that were preferred across the globe. Even one of them, hydroxychloroquine, and others. Right. What should be the best approach in terms of the treatment? Because it does not have a particular medication that can pull it out. You know, so the protocol being applied now, is it the best option, you know, to take? Because one, I don't know whether people respond to medication, the same kind of medication, you know, for instance, the medication used for airway may not be used for our friend here. Does it apply that way, or should there be a central kind of medical approach for this virus? What do you think?
Thank you. First and foremost, you said the virus affects upper and lower respiratory tract. You are right, but not only. It enters the body through these routes, or through your eye, the mouth, but they end up in the upper and lower respiratory tract, where they multiply more, because they have the cells that can get them attached quickly. So that is one. But the virus is now seen to be affecting virtually all the organs when it's consolidated in the body. So it causes pan-organ, failure. So this is the fear. Then on the treatment, because there's still up to now no specific antiviral drug that can stop this virus from multiplying in your body, or from killing the cells. So there are three groups of drugs. It cannot be that the treatment they give him is different from the treatment they give that against the virus. But the treatment they give him will be different if his own symptoms are mostly diarrhea, are mostly severe headache, and then maybe difficulty to breathe. If his own is a bit more on heart issues, and then difficulty to also, his nose is blocked, the treatment. So these are the symptomatic treatments, can differ. But the protocol to slow down the virus, or to stop it from actually going to severe form, must be the same. So there are three groups of drugs. One is the drug that will strengthen the human immunity. Okay? So those drugs are, we know the stimulants, the normal stimulants, and so on and so forth. What those drugs will do is to slow down the multiplication of the virus, and thereby reduce its chance of causing severe type of the disease. Then there are other drugs that actually stop something that the virus does. Because of those spikes I told you, that means the virus, when it enters human body, is like you have thrown in too many antigens, too many bullets into one person. And so the body will react. And when the body reacts, the body has weapons to fight those. In fact, the body mechanism, immunity mechanism, is built like the military, like the defense system. So the killer cells will come, this will come. So the body will start fighting with all it has to stop that virus. So they call that cytokine storm. So cytokine storm is that the body is releasing everything it has. Then that cytokine storm can turn against the body again. So you need drugs that will slow down that cytokine storm. And these are the ones that you are hearing, dexamethasone and so on and so forth, etc. Then you have the drugs that mitigate the entrance of the virus into the cell. And these are the drugs they found. Some of them they were using to treat HIV/AIDS, like the favipiravir, etc. What they do is they slow down the chance of the virus to either attach or to replicate in the body. So in many countries, that is working. The second part of this is now you are hearing the convalescent plasma, where, okay, those who survive, like now they have survived, we can ask them to be donors of their blood, and then we take their plasma, purify it, and then transfuse anybody who has new infection and is getting to severe form. So that group of favipiravir, this convalescent plasma, and other antivirals, like remdesivir, that they are talking about, can actually slow down. Those are semi-specific drugs that can slow down the virus. Then the final group is the hydroxychloroquine and others that you've been hearing, that they say, okay, they modify the cells sensitivity and others. But the protocol has not been approved globally. There are several doubts about them, and many countries are banning their use. And even though we have what we are hearing worldwide, the executive prescription, where the presidents will say, I'm prescribing, hydroxychloroquine, or some governors in Nigeria were even coming out to say, it has worked with me or with us. I'm directing every doctor in my state to use hydroxychloroquine. That's the executive prescription, and so on and so forth. All this is coming from fear, and so on and so forth. So the protocol by the WHO, endorsed by the NCDC, approved by the Federal Minister of Health is perfect, but unfortunately, you know, many of the treatment centers, as you can see, I mean, the guy is it from Oyo who drank so many herbs and all this thing. People are afraid, including the healthcare workers. They are over-treating the patients. They give too many things that the patient do not actually need, and so on and so forth. And these are things happening around treatment.
All right, Professor Nasidi, thank you very much. Once again, we return to Godwin Omeri Okoro. So, the result came out, you were positive. What next?
It was something I was expecting due to the way I was feeling already. So after I was being communicated to, then I just asked them that, let me just go take care of myself, at least. So immediately they make up an ambulance for me and all that. So I was taken to Gwagwalada Treatment Center. So along the line, I was scared in a way, not really scared, because I was like, oh wow, so finally it's my turn. So all these things I've been doing for others, and some comes out positive, so I used to encourage them and all that. So when I got there, I tell you, there are some psychological properties that comes with you being positive with this virus.
What are those psychological feelings?
So I would just say maybe at sometimes in my room, because there you just have to be in your own cubicle and all that, so you just be feeling a bit feverish and all that. So even I was there when my colleague came to meet me there too.
Well,
so,
that's Friday, Egbe?
Yeah, Friday, Egbe. So, in fact, sometimes...
It was a reunion.
Yes. In fact, I handed over the baton to him. So, when sometimes we discovered that me, personally, I can't stay longer in the room. So I like going outside to go and stay under the canopy that was placed outside for us. I noticed whenever I stay too much in the room, I start having the feeling that my body is hot. I'm feeling feverish. Sometimes I will call the nurses to come and check my temperature. They will come, they will say it's okay and all that. So I discovered it was some psychological properties that has been attached to it. So generally, it wasn't easy to, someone like me, I like always working and all that. So at the third day of my stay in the treatment center, I started having myself back. The diarrhea gone, so many other things. So it was my recovery stage. So I was feeling better. And someone like me, as an agile young man, I don't like staying idle. So I felt I was missing to go back to work at some point. Though I stayed 14 days, complete 14 days in isolation center. So it wasn't easy.
What was the treatment like? What were you giving? How did your body react to the treatment you were giving?
Initially, I was scared because as a young guy, as a young boy, I have a little complication about myself. So I have what they call renal agenesis, left renal agenesis. So I was scared because of talking about the kind of heavy drugs they are going to overload you. Something like the alluvia and all that. So initially I was like, how is my organ going to accept this particular drug? So oftentimes I used to tell the doctor that, please, I want to be checking my EUC, urea creatinine often, like every 2 days. Let me see if there's any deviation from the normal values I used to have and all that. So as God helped me, everything was okay. So my body handled it very well, and I was able to get fine, and I was discharged at the 14th day.
Well, that's a point you've raised here, Kirian. If you recall, in all these conversations, indeed, we also had specialists come on Good Morning Nigeria some months ago to say that there are some patients with specific conditions that will require specialist attention. They didn't get a specialist, or because you had your own medical laboratory background that you knew that there were certain vitals you needed to watch out for. Did you have a specialist also help moderate whatever you got?
Okay, yeah, because from our forms, before you do the testing, they are meant to take your vital informations. So on that form, there are spaces for, do you have any illness you've been managing previously or you're currently managing? So it's from there the doctor will pick up on how to formulate your medication for you.
That's fantastic.
Okay, well, tell us, after you contracted the virus, and what next?
There's one unique experience, the psychological aspect of it. Because the one thing is doing a test for somebody, And another thing is when you yourself is involved. Because, just like my colleague said, we've been doing for people. Now it is my own turn. There was one experience I got that it was so funny. I shedded tears. Because when you now see yourself inside an ambulance, blowing the siren, just to clear, we are going. And I begin to ask myself, is it me that is helping people, that is now being carried? So that experience was somehow unique. That was when I called my family, and I said, well, because my wife wasn't aware that I tested positive. So I now told her, so well, my result is out. My result is positive. Now I am going to the treatment center. Just be strong for me. That was with the psychological aspect of it that handles. And we got to Gwagwalada. I haven't to go to Gwagwalada. Did she cry
when you were telling her this?
She cried a lot. Maybe you are believing now I'm going to lose my husband and an early marriage. So
But she was even lucky. You didn't pass that on to her.
No. Yes. Why
was she tested? Was there
yes. She tested twice and negative. But what helped us was that they gave us an accommodation. We were hosted in a hotel, which I don't have contact with them, because if not, my 2 kids would have been involved also. So I was cut off from them. Highest would do Skype, through WhatsApp, calls, and be calling the family to be once in a while, just, oh, how are you, very far, and I would just go.
Just like the medical staff, Kirian, at the Gwagwalada Treatment Center, I recall Dr. Vivian, we had interactions with her, and at one point, for some 6 weeks or more, they hadn't left where they were quartered, to interact with their families. Please continue with your story.
Yeah. So when I got there, the ambulance dropped. We waited for some protocol to come in, because I need to register you and the rest. And ended. I landed, came out. They gave me my room and other few things. But there's something unique in Gwagwalada. That's one thing I know. I don't know, but I believe that protocol should be all other centers. There is a point of entry test they do for you. As you enter, they do some investigations, which happens to be some EUC, it's electrolyte urine creatinine, your liver function test, your serology test has to do with other STIs. They do those tests. Then they now know the baseline where you're operating from. So you now enter based on your symptoms. You explain, like, I didn't have diarrhea. My major points were loss of smell and blockage of my nostrils. Those are major points on her. So when I entered, they now gave me my drugs. I didn't take some particular drugs. So when I asked why, he didn't give me Alovia. Why? Because me, I wanted to get out of that soon. So, but he didn't give me some particular drugs. I was asking Dr. Tahir, I said, Doctor, what happened now? Is it that you hate me? So he said, he laughed. He would just come and say, okay, let's boss. He would play a lot. And that was unique about him. So nice, man. So he now said, no, Friday, you will not take this one. And I asked why. He said, based on this. And I discovered that it was like that for some particular person. There's some person that needed oxygen. I don't need oxygen because I don't have those symptoms. You're like Prof said. So that was how they gave me all those drugs. And first day, second day, I started getting myself, my sense of organ returning when it was about the 6th, 7th day. I was asking my colleague, how far? What is happening? When will I get my smell back? By then, on the 6th, 7th, 8th day, the environment was no longer more comfortable for me. It was not smelling. I said, Kai, I can't stay here. So I would then leave, go outside the environment, because it's the way Gwagwalada is designed. You can go and receive natural air and natural light. So I find myself there most of the time. Or when it is evening, I will just go in, sleep. Next morning, I will run back, do my small exercise, walk around, then return back there and be sitting down there until my 12th day. Then I was now released. But at the end of the day, I discovered that it was like a reunion. Just like you said, he handed over his kettle to me. Said, this is my boiler, I'm going. Yeah. I said, bye-bye. Then most of the people that I help, I pick sample from, I saw them. And I said, Friday, what are you doing here? I said, sir, I am here too. So, but they were nice. That was when I discovered that whatever you need to do in life, do it with the whole of your heart. Because the same people, if I was wicked to them, it would have been a very good opportunity to speak with them. There, I received some gifts. So, one big man here gave me very good clothing. So, take Friday, thank you. If this is the only way I would say thank you. Even in isolation center. The other one gave me, from people with other food, with chicken on this one, KFC. I said, take. So I was not like a king, enjoying. But it was a good one, because in the evening we'll come out, discuss. It takes you away from the psychology as part of it, because that is what kills.
Sorry, I mean, for those who have been through this, it's a bit curious, you know, because you were saying, look, you were asking yourself, am I the one in an ambulance? We had videos circulating of persons resisting being taken in an ambulance. I mean, there were 2 or 3 of them that, I mean, one of them, the officers were requesting for a rope to tie the fellow and get him into the ambulance. The impression created is that an isolation center, you know, typical isolation center in those days when you used to have infectious diseases, and it's almost like a prison. Is it the case that once you are in the isolation center, at least depending on the severity of the infection, that inpatients can interact amongst themselves? There's no risk of transmission again, or since they're already down, so you can't go below down level.
I will use this opportunity to plead with Nigerians. If you are infected, don't resist going to isolation center. The aim is to help you, not to present you. The only the unique thing about it is that everything is provided for you. All what you need to do, carry your bag and 1 or 2 clothes down there. Food is given to you free. Drugs are given to you free. You can interact. One aspect about interaction is that now let me put it like a scenario of being soldiers. We are all soldiers in one battle. So we sit down to plan and share experience. All of us have the virus. We are in this environment together. So all what we give instruction is that put on your face masks, your nose masks, and you can interact. In fact, we sit down, like I said, we go out of the environment, the rooms they gave us, go to an open field, some distance, just like Prof is sitting, Kingsley is sitting, and you are sitting. We sit down and we discuss. We gist about Nigeria. We discuss about the viruses. You go online and you see what's happening in the news channels. You are going around all videos, this one, to listen to what is happening. And there are televisions for you to watch. So it's not a prison, because that is one thing. People think, I am being restricted. The only thing is that you are not allowed to go out for the safety of their brother. That is just one thing I've discovered about that place. It's unique. It's not a prison. So when I see some video, I saw those videos too, but I don't know how authentic they are. But I can't see because when you're now resist, and it's all has to do with understanding. So if you understand and you know that isolation center is even good for you because of your child, because of your friend, because of your parent, then I will gladly go. Like in FCT, you have a very superb ambulance system. When it just comes, okay, they will even ask you, where do you want us to carry you? Like me, that was the question they put on. Not because I was a member, but I've seen it with all other people. Some person will tell you, don't come with ambulance in my house. We say, okay, where do you want us to carry you? Can you drive and wait in some place, or choose a place you want us to come? We'll just go there. Like me, I was just looking at it, so that will not cause scenario. I asked the ambulance, before public health, I will be at the filling station. Can you come and carry me from there? So that other people will not know that, oh, what is happening? To not discourage people. Then the ambulance came. I just walked in. Off we have.
Are you worried about stigma? They say, see that man, see that Friday. That is the one they are taking now.
It's just because of understanding. And not about, to me, I was not bothered about stigma, because that is my profession and I love it. As today, I'm still working. When I return back to work. After this, I'm returning back to go to the field. So people don't have that understanding. And there's one thing that comes with an organization. When one person is down, there is that psychological effect on other people. That was why I said, can you come carry me behind, so that I don't discourage others, because that morale will be down. So, in fact, the whole of that day, a lot of people said, no. Why not we take in solidarity to him? Let's just wait a little bit. And it will distort work for that day. So that was why I just went down. And off we have gone. Not because of stigma. All
right, Friday, well, thank you. Very, very interesting story there. Your attitude to work, gentlemen, is to be commended and deeply appreciated. We know that this is being replicated in different parts of the country by the health workers who are ensuring that the rest of us stay safe and stay well. All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. We're taking a short break. All right, you're welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. Let's listen in now to some of the tweets that have come in from our viewers. Kirian. All right. Festus Akimboye has the first there.
Yes, he says the stories of COVID-19 survivors who have been in medically induced coma while relying on ventilators to breathe would be more convincing Also, many survivors have damaged lungs and need oxygen to support the damaged lungs. What aftercare services do we have for COVID-19 survivors?
Well, I think that the explanation provided by Friday and any of the other guests, it is not every person that has COVID-19 that needs a respirator.
Exactly.
It's not every person that has COVID-19 that needs oxygen support.
It's a medically induced coma.
Yeah, there's nothing like medically induced coma. Friday, is there medically induced coma for treatment of COVID-19? These are the frontline health workers.
And these are some of the issues we're talking about. What people think about misconception about what is happening.
Yes. To say that you must have that oxygen supply in your system. Those are severe
and
cases.
And he's saying, what aftercare services? What kind of aftercare services are you looking? Somebody is healthy already. I'm back
negative,
to work.
You're negative.
So and you're back to work and you're asking about
and Friday says, look, after this program, I'm back to the front line. All right, Chris Simeon, the testimonies given by the survivors serve as a litmus test that coronavirus 19 is real. So don't ignore the safety protocols and guidelines. Stick to them and be safe.
Now, Jones Ferrari, I was infected with COVID-19 and isolated myself. I started staying out late nights and I woke up late to avoid contact with my kids. I washed my dish after eating and I caused disharmony between me and my wife so that I didn't have contact with her. Now I am free. But he didn't tell us how he got free anyway. I mean, this
that's one.
Yeah, because you can't just do all of that and you became free. Were you treated?
It is possible that maybe his own immune system assisted him in overcoming the virus, but he didn't run any tests to confirm that indeed he was free.
Exactly.
Yes, or perhaps he had been in contact. These are some of the points we need to clarify. If you've been in contact with somebody who has a virus, you are requested to self-isolate for some 2 weeks. Probably that's what happened in his own case, Kirian. Francis Obi, COVID-19 is real, and I want Nigerians to please maintain all the instructions of NCDC because 2 people I know contracted it.
First, Sakimboewa, why survivors of COVID-19 should be celebrated? The surge in misleading and unsubstantiated medical advice for the disease in our country is worrisome, as it can put the lives of many Nigerians at a serious risk. NCDC must do more to protect us from the false and harmful information.
Titus Mondenok, COVID-19 is real, and humanity ought to understand to live with it. It is not a death sentence. Don't stigmatize and don't discriminate against those who have contracted it. Follow the protocols and seek advice from relevant health authorities. We will surely overcome this pandemic.
Dele Jack Solomon, more people who contracted and survived coronavirus are reporting experiencing symptoms of depression and anxiety than before. Could it be from having COVID-19 being exposed to the virus or simply living through a pandemic being asymptomatic disrupts the feeling of being safe?
Mike Ayakwa, the new normal, COVID-19 is unfortunate, but affords huge opportunities for Nigerians to exhibit potentials using local content. Now, the experiences shared by survivors of COVID-19 are awesome. Most of the medications we got from Nigeria are not abroad. Good news.
Chris Simeon, we've learned that there's going to be great exodus of Nigerian doctors abroad in search of greener pastures. What has the federal government done to curb the movement of at this critical time? Chris Simeon, I think we're talking about COVID-19 and survivors. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
that's another topical issue as well.
I think we take Comrade Ungala, Kieran. He said, what is the difference between COVID-19 and other viruses like Ebola, HIV, and Lassa fever? They all have vaccines or drugs, while COVID-19 is yet to have a vaccine, yet people are cured. There is no vaccine for HIV.
Yeah. Hello, Alpha-C. Aside appearing on the studio to share experiences as it concerns the coronavirus survivors, they should be bold enough to show video clips and pictures of their time at isolation centers as it's obtained in the Western world in order to convince people the more. I don't agree with this law, Alpha-C, that we have to show you the video clips of people in an isolation center in order to convince you that they were there. Of what necessity is that? I mean, you want to see people in the hospital? Right. Is it just because we have coronavirus? People have been in the hospital for years. So does it mean we have to go from ward to ward and begin to show people to convince you that they are sick? That's not necessary.
It's not fiction. I mean, we've had high-profile individuals who have appeared on Good Morning Nigeria to share their experiences. These persons include state governors, deputy governors, ministers, and then, of course, the Comptroller General of Immigration was also here, professors in the universities.
And these are medical personnel.
And these are medical personnel. So what is the fiction? It is not fiction. And this is part of a narrative out there where people, some persons try to cast doubt on whether or not coronavirus exists. Some of the obituaries that you have read are also not pieces of fiction. If they were pieces of fiction, I'm sure those persons would be alive today.
Or they will show you the corpse of the person in the mortuary before you don't agree the person died.
That's right. All right. The Festus Akeboyewa says, sad that many Nigerians are still not taking the right precautions to protect themselves and their families from COVID-19 because the bad information about the disease outweighs the good information in our country. This must change.
Mutana Farouk, the experiences shared by the survivors of COVID-19 can help to restore hope of survival in the mindset of those who are still battling with the viral disease. However, I hope people wouldn't take it as a form of relief to neglect the preventive protocols.
All right, this is from Sioya. It says, I think it is better for a health worker to immediately isolate and subject himself to a test when she or she suspects the symptoms of COVID-19. Well, you've been listening to our two guests here talk about their own experiences and what they did.
Yeah, let's bring in Prof. Yeah,
I was just curious, following from that last tweet before Prof comes, I was just wondering, apart from you two on your team, did any of your other colleagues also get down with the virus?
Yes.
And they all recovered?
All recovered.
Congratulations.
Okay, it simply means that you people got this from the field.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what it means. Because when you do your sampling, you still have to bring it out, okay, before you begin to cover it up and things like that. So perhaps if you do that, take a sample from someone who is positive, you wouldn't know the person is positive, right? And anything can happen along the line.
And the more people you take samples from, the more likely you get exposed.
You're exposed to it. Yes, Prof. This virus doesn't seem to be a virus that will leave the world very soon. Going by the data we have globally, that it may last longer. What should be the measures to put in place? Because the situation may arise, where it may now become a common ailment, like we have normal cough or normal catarrh and what have you. Because a time might come when the treatment protocol could now be so simple that anybody can as well go over the counter, get some drugs and take. But from all indications, I'm not sure all the drugs being used presently are prescription drugs. Some of them are off-the-counter drugs, right? So now, what would be, how would you reason this, futuristically? What will happen if this virus persists, perhaps until next year, 2 years after, and what have you? What would be the scenario you would like to paint on how we are going to adjust to begin to live this? When we had HIV, people thought the world was coming to an end. Today, people don't talk more about HIV. It is still there, but no vaccine and all that. But now people don't talk about HIV anymore. We're not talking about coronavirus after the Ebola saga.
Well, thank you, Kieran. That is the question the whole world is asking. One, how soon? How far? Because it seems as if we couldn't just have the tools that will be effective, rather from preventive or curative aspect, to checkmate this virus. So everything that is being used so far is to mitigate the impact of the virus on the human being, to reduce how many people it could kill, and then also to reduce how many people it could incapacitate. So unfortunately, no vaccine, as you rightly said, but the vaccines are now being tested. So before we have that, the most powerful tool we are going to have to now be categorical on our projections or predictions will be the vaccine. But unfortunately, the vaccines that are so far being tested, all of them, no one can come and say, oh yeah, this is it will work and give 100% guarantee, and I will give the reason. Not because they are bad. Most of the vaccines are so far on the phase 3 clinical trial, and some have really done very well. So what we are left with, that I think is the most powerful weapon, is this social distances, that this non-pharmaceutical, ingredients of our fight. And unfortunately, here in Nigeria, we are seeing more and more complacency. And that is where, if you don't comply, then the period of which you're going to have this virus among you will be longer. If countries, or take for instance the United States, states that complied and really, followed the listen, like New York, the governor was on top of things and so on. So it hit them hard. They complied. Everybody wore masks. They closed, social distance, and within 2 months, it went down. And they have been trying to keep it down. States that were taking it for granted, oh, don't worry, they don't use masks. They went to the beaches and so on and so forth. When it came, it hit them so bad, like Florida, etc. It's now going in Texas and Houston. Then take some other countries that are like our countries. Yesterday, India had 74,000 cases in one day. So people are saying, oh, we are not having these cases a lot in Africa because of our weather and whatever, etc. But India and Brazil and also most of their regions there are having tropical weather like ours. So there's no explanation. One thing that we could say categorically, and I can tell you now, is that maybe we don't know the exact extent of our infectivity. We don't, because we are not testing much. Take for instance, in India now they are testing 300, 400,000 a day. South Africa, when they started testing en masse, number of cases started really appearing. They started seeing what they are doing. So if we now increase our capacity to start testing more, we shall know. So how, as you rightly said, to be futuristic, how do we go to reduce this time, that the virus will be along with us and be harming us? One, we must convince our people and keep emphasizing on this non-pharmaceutical, social distancing, hand washing, etc. People to take it serious, and they should wear their mask. And let me just use as an example. When there was World Health Assembly last May, this May, all world leaders were on board, virtual. And, virtually all the presidents, including our president. And, people, there was one last question they asked the Chinese president. You people managed to control this quickly and get it out of Wuhan and the Hubei province and so on and so forth. What will you think is the best method or the tool you used, to get this out? And he just kept quiet and said, wearing mask, this mask, and the contamination of surfaces. If you remember, they contaminated the whole cities, everywhere. Anywhere the virus could lurk and hide, they did that. So if we go back to that, it will be fantastic. The second best one, is if we have this vaccine and it comes and it works, then we can say in the next 1-2 years, we shall overcome this pandemic, and then, everybody will be at ease.
Professor Nasidi, there's a point of curiosity for me, and I believe for all others. You referenced it in passing. If you take a look at the infectivity rate in sub-Saharan Africa, it certainly should be curious that elsewhere where you are having exponential figures of persons who are infected and persons who are also dying, you just say to yourself, what's going on? Let's take a look at Nigeria, for instance. Fatalities are just a little above 1,000. May their souls rest in peace. Even if we were to account for the so-called unexplained deaths in Kano and Jigawa, and incidentally, you were part of the presidential special task team that went to Kano. I wouldn't know whether thousands of persons died in Kano. The grave diggers were the ones who were reporting back to say, look, this is what is played out. In South Africa, over 13,000 persons have died already. So what is happening? Is it so-called herd immunity? Because if persons are dropping dead, I mean, obviously it will be there, that people are dropping dead. How do we explain what's happening, in sub-Saharan Africa versus a place like Brazil, for instance, or even in the U.S., where no fewer than 180,000 persons have died from coronavirus?
I think your question is very apt because how about the 50-something cases, right?
Yes.
But over 39,000 recovered.
Yes.
Just about above, a little bit above 1,000. So does it mean that we are managing this?
What's happening? What can we speculate?
Well, at the beginning of the outbreak, when most African countries, were reporting the cases, there's a country that didn't report cases or a case. So they met, I think, the Minister of Health, and they asked him, well, how come if we don't have any case? And all of a sudden, then he smiled. We are not testing. So if you don't test, you don't have a case. So I'm sorry to say, I think if you compared Nigerian population and the number of tests so far carried out, in the country is very small. Am I right? Yeah. It's comparatively small. You talked of thousands of deaths in South Africa because South Africa were testing massively when they increased their capacity to test. So the more they were testing, the more they were seeing. So in the African continent, it might be the following, very possible. It is very possible that maybe as Africa was spared by the other two coronaviruses, we might be a little bit spared with this. That one, the possibility that our weather or whatever this thing could, slow down the virus even before it enters us. Two, we have younger population. You understand? So if you see the demographic structure of Europe, people above 50 are majority, and so on. So, but in Africa, people below 40 are majority, and of course, death rates among these groups is lower everywhere in the world. Then, the next, what they call it, is this fact that, by the time an African child is 5 years, in this our they shouldn't quote me, situation, he must have come into contact with so many other pathogens, viruses, bacteria, this thing. That's why they say our under 5 survival rate is, very low, because by the time he's 5, if you survive 5 years in Africa, then you can survive many other things. So maybe, our people, our population, must have come to other viruses that have similar or could induce immunity that can protect us from this. So with these 3 packages, it's very possible to say maybe something is happening in Africa. But because we are not testing yet enough, we're not testing enough, we have not expanded, let's say, 2 million people.
So some may argue that, yes, you're not tested, but people are not dying massively out of the disease.
No, that's not this thing. You can't say that also. Because as they said, it is those that they tested that they confirmed that they have COVID that are taken to the treatment centers. Now, in the community, we don't know how many people are really dying from COVID because
that have not tested.
That have not tested, that are regarded as, just normal than malaria, etc. We don't know yet.
Yeah, sorry, Prof. This is still in line with the issues that my colleague and I are raising for you to respond to, so that we can have a better appreciation of this virus. Yeah. Again, let's return to the United States. Yeah. It's been suggested, for instance, that the socio-economic status of minority groups, African Americans or Black Americans, has been Latinos. It's been a factor in the higher incidence rate of coronavirus and fatalities amongst those persons. And here we are, it's a developing country, and therefore when you hear a poverty rate, X, Y, Z, you think people are dropping dead on the streets. So again, how do we explain it? In the US, 180,000 persons gone, and here, officially, as we do know, 1,000 or so deaths. Even if you were to extrapolate, and say from those thousands, unexplained or unaccounted for deaths, it certainly won't be anywhere near what we are seeing in some other jurisdictions.
Yeah, absolutely right. So when it started happening in the US, that you mentioned, that majority of those that are coming down with the disease and dying were actually the Black or the Latinos. And I quickly looked into what was really happening, and I mentioned, when I was interviewed by one of the Al Jazeera or I said, I don't think it's a racial thing, but it's more of a social, socio-economic status and so on and so forth. And this was proven later, that Of course, among this group, they have subsistence living. They have to go out and this. Anyway, so it's proven that it is a socioeconomic factor that made these minorities to be more exposed. You know, and then that's why they are coming down with the disease and die, not because they are black or their skin is thick, etc., and so on and so forth. That was the mistake we almost made with HIV/AIDS. When HIV/AIDS started, let me just give the example, analogy, it's very important. You know, many Nigerians and Africans were saying, oh, so it's not our disease, it's disease of homosexuals, it's the disease of Oyibo people, it won't come. One of the singers sang that our skin is thick, the virus can't penetrate, etc. Then Africa ended up becoming, you know, the most affected continent with HIV/AIDS. So if we don't take chances, we don't know this virus yet, and we are afraid that this is also affecting the thinking of our people. That's why they are not, you know, really adhering to these protocols. We're afraid that if we're not careful and we don't really emphasize this, you know, aspect of our fight to convince our people that this disease is still there, is real, Africa might be the last battleground. And that's what we're afraid of.
Yeah, that's a very important point. With just Africa, we have to be careful so that we don't become the last battleground of COVID-19. So let's not take chances. Gentlemen, Godwin and Friday, let's get your closing thoughts on this. Now that you are recovered and you are back on your feet and back to your beat, what message do you have for Nigerians? What are your closing thoughts?
Okay, my message for the Nigerians is I think we have come to stay with COVID-19. We've come to live with it, and the use of mask and face shield has become our new normal. So it's obvious that some people are still ignorant of the fact that COVID-19 is here in Nigeria. But this is me telling you that we should take charge. We should be able to never let our guards down. We should always keep up, wear your mask, maintain social distance. Whenever you feel as if you've been exposed in one way or the other, always get ready to be tested. We have our different testing centers all over everywhere in FCT. We have even in public health in Maitama District Hospital and so other health facilities. So each time you think you've exposed yourself, always come forward and always believe that COVID-19 is real and it's not a death sentence as well. And for the fact you may contract it and you feel you are symptomatic, you still have the probability of giving it to another person. And for the fact you think you're young and you're going to survive it, that might not be the same with the person you're going to give it to. So we should always take responsibility.
Okay, I think that's much we can take.
I wanted Friday, your closing thoughts as well.
I will make my own very brief. I want to plead with Nigerians to say, please, COVID is real. I cannot just come from my house. Nobody forced me to be here to say I once have COVID and I survive it. So the misconception about COVID is not real. This politics, you were just forced to go and do that to help the government of Nigeria. It is not true. COVID is real. Please.
All right. Thank you. Airboy Friday, Andrew, Medical Laboratory Scientist, FCT Public Health Department. Thank you for coming. And Okoro Godwin Omeri, member, COVID-19 Response Team, FCT Public Health Department. Thank you also for coming. The good thing is that you are medical personnel, and our viewers will now appreciate the fact that, look, this is real. And we'd also like to appreciate Professor Abdul Salami Nasiri, former Director General of Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Provost, College of Health Sciences, University of Africa, Bayelsa State. Thank you, sir,
Thank you very much.
for your
Pleasure,
time and your insight. Now, some sporting news.